Before the next episode of X Job Downloaded starts, I have a big favour to ask. If you've enjoyed any of our episodes so far, please can you click on the follow button on your platform. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon and YouTube. It costs nothing to follow, but makes a real difference to me as a podcast producer. Thank you. My name is Paul Maleary, and for 30 years I served with Essex Police. During that time, I interviewed suspects for murders, rapes, extortions and violent crimes. Now, I interview former members of the police and military and others who have done exceptional things in their lives. Sit back and listen to X Job Downloaded. This interview is being tape recorded. My name is Paul Maleary and this is X Job Downloaded. And today I'm going to interview Andy Petherick. Now, Andy is a former member of the UK Special Forces and is now the head of Hotspur Leaf, which is a fantastic company that provides gin and assorted items that go with the gin, engraved bottles, etc., etc. Good morning to you.
Hi, mate. Thank you very much for having me on today. Much appreciated.
No, not a problem at all. And thank you for taking the time to be with me today. I think it's important that people realise that the military are not one-dimensional and that it brings so many different things to the table. So that's why this is really important. But where did it all begin for you? Where are you from originally and what was your inspiration to become involved with the military?
So I grew up in South Wales, just outside of Swansea, in a small village called Pontarddulais, which is an old coal mining town. And there wasn't really a lot for kids to do, and it was quite easy to fall in with the wrong crowd. And I'd always enjoyed the outdoors, and I spent a lot of time fishing, and occasionally when I could get out with an air rifle, terrorising the local rabbit population. And I was quite fortunate that my mother was very supportive and encouraged me to go fishing, which was quite an expensive hobby, still is, and she made those sacrifices for me to do that. And I just enjoyed my time in the outdoors. I then won a scholarship to a college in Gloucester called Wycliffe. And there really I had the opportunity. That was when I won life's lottery, really, was getting that scholarship. And the reason, ironically, that they took me on was because they wanted me to be a captain of their fishing team. And also they wanted me to captain their shooting team as well. So that was quite good. As part of the process, because I went in on a bursary, because my mother couldn't afford the fees at the school, which were very expensive. I had a bursary because my father was in the RAF. And part of the thing I had to do as part of the process was prove that I could achieve something in academia, which they weren't too worried about. But I had to take a shooting test as part of the entrance. And I also then had to prove my passion for fishing, which was quite easy because the headmaster was into fishing as well. So we hit it off straight away.
Fantastic. Was there a Combained Cadet Force at the school?
Yeah, there was. So at Wycliffe College, there was a CCF, which is the Army Cadets, and it was run by a very, very defining figure in putting me back onto the rails because I was a little bit of a scrote before I managed to get into into that college. And his name was Major Wes Thomas, and he was a Welshman, and he was ex-Power Edge, and he had a very unique way of managing me so that I saw the errors of my ways. And so I saw the errors of my ways, and he always was a great support because I still hold a few records that I probably shouldn't be too proud of with the school in terms of getting suspended and getting caught and getting fined and gated and all the things that you have at a private school, because I came out of a fairly robust national comprehensive school and then went into one of England's finest private schools. I think it's fair to say that there was an adjustment period for me.
That's very, very politely put. So you've done all your schooling. What do you do at the conclusion of your schooling?
So once I finished school, I decided that I wanted to join the army, and then went because of the environment that I just left. I decided that I wanted to become an officer. So I went for my RCB, which I failed, sadly. And that was basically on the test that you have to sit down and take when you're there. I forget the name of it now, but I was told that my leadership was good, but I failed the test and that path was over to me, which was a pretty bitter pill to swallow. So I sulked around for a little bit and then decided that I was going to do a degree in business management, which I then went on to do. And within 6 months, I was clearly the odd person out in the room. I didn't really share the views of anybody in there. And I didn't like going, and the wheels basically fell off that as a career pursuit. So I spent that summer and the rest of that year working on a local trout fishery outside of Swansea, a place called Maes Gwyn, which I don't think is a fishery anymore. Sadly, Paul, I think, gave it up. The guy who owned it, who was a really good guy, and basically decided what I was going to do. So I then ended up going to Wycliffe College in Hampshire to follow a degree in fish, game and wildlife management, which I did for a couple of years. And like any good student, worked my way through my grant, because there were still grants in that day, worked my way through my grant fairly rapidly, and then decided I needed a job. So I got told, a guy called Les came into our class one day. Said, "Oh, Andy, you like fishing? There's a shop down the road called Orvis in Stockbridge in Hampshire who's looking for a Saturday boy." So I was like, right, absolutely, we'll have some of that. So I went down, shined my shoes, ironed my trousers, ironed my shirt, went down, met with the store manager who offered me he and I hit it off straight away. A great guy, shared my passion for fly tying and fishing. And then spent 5 years working for Orvis, ended up as a store manager, and that was a great experience for me. I traveled a lot. Orvis is an international company. I was beyond keen fisherman. I got sent all over the world on trips, and they indulged me quite a lot. I went over when the Kola Peninsula opened up. I went over there and fished the Yocanga. I went back there 2 or 3 times, and at the age of 22, 23, I was fishing places, the guys on the trip with me were all established businessmen. And I was very much the odd one out in terms of age and stuff, but everyone shared the commonality of fishing. So, it was great times, but Orvis invested in me quite heavily, and then ended up as a store manager for them. Made a lot of friends in the fishing community. And then a guy who was another father figure to me, who I met through the fishing industry, a guy called Charles Jardine. So Charles rang me up one day, because Charles lived in Shrewsbury, and at the time I was in Ludlow. So Charles rang me up and said, "What do you know about editing a magazine?" And I was like, "Absolutely nothing, Charles, whatsoever." He said, "Right, dear boy, can you use spell check?" I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "Right." And his words to me were, "You're perfect, you'll fly through it." And then I got a cryptic message, as ever with Charles, to email this guy. And anyway, that then morphed into me meeting with a guy called David Hall, who again took a bit of a punt on me, David. So I had 2 or 3 interviews with his publishing company called David Hall Publishing. And then we set up a magazine called Today's Fly Fisher. So literally my first day when I walked in, I knew nothing about editing a magazine, absolutely nothing. The reason David hired me was because he saw something in me, and also because I was passionate about fishing, which I still am. So I turned up, and I'll never forget my first day. It was an empty desk, literally an empty desk. I had a pack of unopened A4 notepads. I had a pack of unopened Bics on my desk. I had a brand new computer in a box. I sat down, and the editorial director said to me, he said, "Welcome, I'm Roger, blah, 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 blah. Basically, you've got 4 weeks to get it done." And that was that. And Rod, to be fair to him, held my hand through that process. And that was probably the most stressful month of my life. So anyway, we did it. We got it launched, and we won a few awards for the magazine. I did that for 2 years, so that was pretty cool. So once we got the magazine set up, I still had a hankering for the forces, and there were friends of mine that were in the forces, and I heard through the jungle drums that surround the military that you could apply for UKSFR, so reserve selection, as a civilian. And I figured, well, what could possibly go wrong? I'll give it a go. applied for that, and then subsequently passed. So I then did 6 years. So I then had a very dynamic life where I had two strands to that. I had my military side of my life, and then I had the civilian side of my life. The military side of my life, I couldn't talk about. I couldn't tell anyone. I wasn't allowed to tell my employer what I did. I just had to tell them that I was in the Territorial Army, and that was that. And then on the civilian side of my life, I was completely naive to that. So by day, I was an editor of a magazine, and then on the weekends and for extended periods of time, I did other stuff in other places, both of which I enjoyed.
How cool is that? So what's the selection process like to go into the SF Reserve? Because we all know that the SF full-time, they come through regiments, and, you know, the Royal Marines. My cousin went from Royal Navy to Royal Marines, never went to the SF side. But, you know, the selection process, you get identified within your unit to go forward. How does that happen as a reservist?
Okay, so it varies dependent on the current recruiting program for that element of the forces. And occasionally they open up the door to civvies with no military background whatsoever. You know, no, I was a cadet, I was keen, you know, I understood the basics, you know, so I understood, you know, what a rifle was and, you know, how to present your kit and all the rest of it. But I was by no means a trained soldier at all. I was a very keen cadet, but not a trained soldier. So what happened was basically you apply, you have an interview, you have all your background checks, and then as a civilian, you then have to go through the CIC, which is the Combat Infantryman's Course, which is a course of around about 12 weeks, where you basically get taught, you know, everything from, you know, this is a rifle, you point it in that direction, you know, these are your boots, this is how you shine them, and you do all of that. So you do your like basic training as a standard reservist would do. Right. Once you then pass that, you are then allowed to, or at that time, I don't know if it's still current or not, but at that time, then once I passed that, I was then allowed to stand on the starting line with the rest of the UKSF reserve applicants. So there was guys from all, you know, there was nearly 440 of us that started the course, not all in one location. You know, they're spread about, but you come together on the weekends to do the trainings, and it's a pretty intensive course. You know, it's if you're not on a training weekend, you're training that weekend to be fit enough for it, because the actual course itself is the same for any member of UKSF. So the actual test week, it doesn't matter where you're from, you have to maintain those standards, and it's the same for the regulars and the reserves. So training and physical training and, you know, eating properly and all the rest of it was a big priority during that time. And then I mean, once you then start the aptitude, you start the selection process. There's a little bit of stuff to do with weapons and stuff, but they're not really interested in that. What they're interested in is finding people with the correct mental mindset, people who can assimilate information quickly, and also people who are fit enough to pass the course. And you get quite a big attrition rate in the first few weeks. Lots of people turn up and just drastically underestimate it. But there was all sorts there. There was former commandos, army commandos, Marines, Power Edge. I mean, there was a lot of varied people there.
And what was the acceptance like? I mean, you've come in as the editor of a fishing magazine, and you're going into an elite team. What was the acceptance like by the regular service personnel and the personnel that had a military background that were going into the reserves?
Well, they all thought it was hilarious that I edited a fishing magazine, you know, because most of the guys that were there, you know, their average job was looking at a computer screen or whatever, and they say, well, where were you last week? Like, why didn't you turn in? I was like, well, I was in the Bahamas on a photo shoot, you know, and they're like, oh, right, really? And I was like, well, yeah, like, there's my magazine. And they were like, all right, okay, fair one. And yeah, you know, and there was one time where we had quite an important test that everybody had to take. And I remember pleading to the RSM at the time of who's in charge, like, to let me off, because there was a mayfly hatch down in the test and I had to go down and photograph it. And he was like, this is without question the best blag that I've ever heard, Petherick. Carry on. So he let me go through it all, but he actually gave me permission to go and do it. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
How cool is that? I've caught mayfly out in Ireland. My family live
on the Corrib, which is
Oh,
one of
nice. Yeah. It's one of the most famous things. It's one of the most famous places in Europe for the mayfly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to go out there when I was a little boy, and we'd collect them and sell them to the Americans and the
Fisherman.
Germans.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So you are now passing out, and we're not going to go into any detail around deployments, etc. How are your employers, though? Did they give you the opportunity to go and do the stuff that you wanted to do?
Yeah, they did. I had quite a rapid progression in terms of jobs. I was in an industry that I love. So on the civilian side of my life, as opposed to the military side. So on the civilian side of my life, I was in a world that I loved. I was talking fish, and I got to go to some amazing places. And my time in the magazine afforded me, the ability to travel like I could only ever have dreamed of. We got it to a point where for a year, myself and my assistant, we were in a different country every month. So we had a 4-week cycle. So put the magazine to bed, work your way up, put the magazine to bed. And we got it. So we managed to do the magazine in 3 weeks, which basically gave us a week's grace. So we used to get offered loads of trips for free in the days when the paper media was really powerful, and there are still very powerful elements within it, but we got things thrown at us, and Bahamas, Belize, New Zealand, America, Mexico, every month we were somewhere else. And again, this was a course of great hilarity for the guys within the military side of my life, who were just like, you're going to get a proper job. I was like, well, I'm trying to avoid it, but one day I might. So.
And where was the best place to fish, and what was the biggest fish that you ever caught?
The biggest fish that I've ever caught that I would say was an achievement for me was a 32-pound salmon on the River Yocanga in Russia.
Right.
I've caught bigger fish. I've caught like yellowfin tuna. I've caught big barracuda, giant trevally, sharks. But for me, it's not so much, like when you're out with a guide, you've got somebody showing you what to do, so it's not all on you. Whereas what I really enjoyed was bone fishing, and I've been very fortunate to go to some pretty exclusive places to fish for bonefish, and they are really skittish. They're really difficult to target. They're very hard to catch. And I got to the point after 2 or 3 trips where I could see them on my own, and that sounds amazing, but they're so well camouflaged, even seeing them is difficult. But once you get it, it's like riding a bike, you get it. And I caught a bonefish that was 10.5 pounds out of Los Rocos Harbour on my own, which was probably my best achievement because that thing did not give up. I mean, it was a very angry fish. And I had to swim under ropes of boats and swim down. When I landed it, I actually had an applause of all the tourists who'd watched me on this beach running up and down and swimming under the ropes of the rod and all the rest of it. So, that's probably the one I'm most proud of, my bonefish.
My son lives in a place called Mission Beach, which is just south of Cairns, and they go out to the coral reef and they catch the coral trout and stuff like that. I mean,
nice.
Yeah, and they're lovely eaters, but they're beautiful fish. They are absolutely stunning, of all colours. I've been on the Great Barrier Reef snorkeling, and it's just an absolutely amazing to see them. Absolutely brilliant. What was the motivator to leave the military?
Basically, I'd done nearly 6 years, seen a lot, done a lot, enjoyed it. I'd met a girl, and then I had a chance at a business, which was a once in a lifetime thing. I had somebody who was willing to invest in me to launch a business, and it just became like the right time to part company. Since then I've missed it every day. I do. My best friends now are still in. In fact, one of the guys has done nearly 20 years now, which makes me realize how old I am. And he's still in, still very active. But it was just work basically, and an opportunity that I had, and because of the commitment of UKSFR, I mean, you do have to give a large percentage of your time, and you have to be honest with yourself and also the blokes that you train with. And I just couldn't commit to the amount of time that was required.
That's fair enough. That makes absolute sense. So what business did you go into? The Brilliant Hotspur Leaf, or was it a different business?
No, no, no. So I went into so after I left the forces, or after I left like UKSFR, the business that I went into was in fishing tackle. I then moved to I had a so worked my way through that and then exited. I then had some time off and I got into deer stalking. So I do a lot of deer stalking, and that's my passion at the moment, like deer stalking and also rifle ballistics. I'm a bit of a pest. I'm one of those horrible people that counts the grains of powder and obsesses about group size, and I don't like the creature that I've become. So please don't judge me, anybody watching this. But so I got into deer stalking and did that for a while, and it came to a point where my hobby was becoming my business, and it wasn't about stalking. It was about pound signs over their heads, and I didn't really like what it was becoming. So I wound that up, and then went into the gin game. So that was at the point when gin was in a big boom, and a neighbour of mine was badgering me at the time to look after the sales and marketing of this gin idea that he had. And I won't go into too much into detail, but it was literally like men behaving badly meets gin making, right? And Neil didn't really know what he was doing. I knew a little bit about sales and marketing. So we put it together and we came up with a product, which was actually pretty cool. We then went through all of the legal applications of the HMRC, which we drastically underestimated how long it takes, because what they put on their website and what they actually do is two completely different things. So, and so our entrance to the gin game, I live in a town called Alnwick, and we produce a local brew. So I put a bottle up saying, this is what we do. And I had about 500 friends on Facebook. I'm not that popular, so I put a post up saying, thank God it's done. And then I took my fiance out for a curry that night. And by the time I'd come back from the curry, we got back home at 11 o'clock. We'd sold every single bottle of the 200
Wow.
bottle, which was mental. And then it just went stratospheric. We did, I tend to play hard and work harder. And we really drove the business, and we did nearly £1 million in the first year. But it was at the height, and that was from literally nothing. Like, we started it with pennies, and pounds, but not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And but that was just to manage that. It was right at the peak of the gin game. It was literally as it was coming up, and we had no idea that we were there. It was purely luck, to be totally honest with you. And but it was a good learning point. Look for trends and look for opportunity and try and get into something as it's coming up, and then you'll do better at it. So we did that, and it became apparent after a year of working with my business partner Neil that we just weren't designed to work together. Neil wanted to have a business where it not ticked over, but it made money, and he wanted to pass it on to his son, whereas I wanted to build a large business, exit, and then go on and do something else. That's the way that I am. So we agreed to disagree. He bought me out. And then I started off on the Hotspur journey then. And we had a really promising craft distillery based in Alnwick. So we started doing Hotspur gin. I got a deal with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club within the first year, which was amazing. But then unfortunately COVID came and just kiboshed everything, totally cut it off at the knees. So and that was really difficult. So, because where we were was, and one of the things that really frustrated me about that time was, we were so close to getting national distribution. We just done a deal with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, the wheels, it was amazing. And COVID came, and because we were a small craft distillery, we'd only sold to tourists. So we made reasonable money in the summer, and then in the winter we didn't really do that much other than Christmas. And everyone from COVID was like, oh, well, you'll be fine with your internet sales. You'll be fine with your internet sales. And it's like, well, we had a website, but because we were a small brand and people would go to the supermarket and buying bottles of Gordon's gin for 16 quid for a litre because it was lost leaders to get the people going in there, you just can't compete with that. And, COVID changed retail. It changed the way people buy. It changed a huge amount of things. Very subliminal, but there was, movements, And, we had a lovely business selling, craft gin to people at £39 a bottle, and then the market dynamic just changed to, if it's not 17 quid for a litre, people aren't really interested. Then, increasing costs of living and all that kind of stuff. We had to reinvent the business basically. So I've always been a bit of a tech pest, and I used some of the money that we got from a grant to buy a laser, and I started laser engraving bottles.
I see.
Pulled up the black book, who is likely to buy gin or rum or whatever it is. So used my connections in the forces, who were still employed, still being paid, etc., and then started flogging them bottles. But what became apparent quite quickly was that they wanted their own cat badge on it, which has peculiarities with it, and then they all wanted them personalized. Yeah, which you can do with a laser, but with paper labels and stuff, it's really. But then they only wanted to buy 20 or 25. Yeah. However, it was money and it was coming in. So we built the business up that way. And then fast forward 2 years, we now have 9 lasers, which are nearly 35 grand a piece, which are run by robots. So the biggest challenge that I had was finding people who would put the bottles in correctly every time. That was literally the biggest challenge. And we had people who just wouldn't do it, would go out for a fag and miss the things. So our production dipped, because you can work out how long it's going to take. So we now have robots loading the machines. All of our finishing on the bottles is still done by hand. So all the painting and everything, all the colouring layers done by hand. We've got some really good guys who look after that. Thank you very much, Dan and George. Ably managed by a chap called Paul, who's ex-Power Edge as well, actually.
Right.
So like those guys manage our production and all of the staff that we have like within the business. And then so we grew the business doing engraved bottles. The challenge with engraved bottles is that they're a slightly higher price point.
Of course.
The great thing about engraved bottles is they're good for personalizations and special events and stuff. But to have a business that's sustainable, you need to find a lot of special events and a lot of things. So we needed something a bit different. So I have a very good friend within the Marines who basically connected me with the UIF, which is the Unit Institute Fund at CTC, so the Commander Training Centre, Royal Marines, where they basically breed Marines. Oh, sorry, don't breed them, they create them. They come as civilians and they come out as Marines. And I had a meeting with those guys, and it was about 2 weeks before I was away stalking with a good mate of mine, and I had an idea about putting a commander dagger in a bottle. So I threw a commander dagger in the back of my van, like with a bottle, and I sat there one evening and I was just playing with it, thinking about how it could work. So my mate at the time said, I explained to him what I want to do. He was like, that'll never work. I was like, right, challenge accepted. So I came back, found a CAD engineer who refused to take my money, and then told him I'd pay him to prove me wrong. And my idea was basically to put the commander dagger into the bottle, and then you can unscrew the handle and pull through it. So after lots of reiterations, we eventually ended up with this. So I don't know if you can see that. Oh no, the thing's blocking it out, the backdrop. So I'll hold it in front of me so you can see the commander dagger there is suspended in the bottle. So that's a stainless steel 304 commander dagger in there, which isn't a dagger, it's a pouring spout. But the cool thing about it is, and I'll do it in front of the screen here, you unscrew the handle to pour that out. So you have the effect of the blade staying inside the bottle. And then there's an O-ring in there that you seal off. We had some challenges with the first batch, and I have to say a massive thank you to the Royal Marine community as a whole who ordered those first bottles, and also to the guys at UIF CTC who showed a lot of patience and compassion during the process, because there was 2 things that happened. The first one was the first factory, because making these in volume is really difficult and getting them at a price point is really difficult. So, and also they wanted the handles in gold. So the guy who said he could make them first off, or the factory that said they could make it, kept putting the price up every 4 weeks. Yeah, and it just got to the point where it wasn't viable. We then had to resource, so it caused lots of delays. The other thing then was the guy who did eventually make them put some gold plating on the handles, and they turned up with the plating on the inside of the handle, so we then had to clean them out. And like the whole thing was just like a little bit of a nightmare. So it caused a lot of delays by going to market. However, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger and you learn from it. And we've not learned from it. We now have a fantastic supplier, and we've expanded the range now. So we have the Commando dagger. Let me think, what else can I show you? We then did a K-bar for the United States Marine Corps. So there's the K-bar. Yeah. So the K-bar is slightly different to the rest of the ones in the range. That then unscrews on the top of the handle there. That's got, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but that's got the Iwo
Yeah.
So that's all laser engraved and hand painted on there.
Fantastic.
We then, there's a few other blades that we do for other groups, which I can't really show you the insignia on the program. We do the S80 bayonet.
Yep.
So that's the current issue rifle, which I'm sure you're aware, and a lot of your followers will be aware. So there you go. So that unscrews. That's got a very, 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 very nice feel. I mean, just to give an idea, these blades are solid stainless steel 304. They weigh about 400 or 500 grams each. So they're not toys. They are real high quality items. And then one of the most iconic ones in our range then is the SLR. So you've got the SLR bayonet there. So that's a full life-size replica of an SLR. For those that know, 7.62 puts them down. Yeah. And then the handle on that then unscrews. And that's
fantastic.
Thank you. And that on its own there weighs about 200 grams, about 250 grams. So there you go.
I mean, I've got your website up in front of me whilst I'm talking to you, and I'm going to share this, and I'm going to, I'll put this all round. But it is so well put together. I mean, you've got kukris on there, you've got rifles, there's so much on there. Got this fantastic business. Are you shipping all over the world?
Well, we are, and it's interesting. So you meet us just at the point where we are about to, hopefully, go through quite a bit of growth and expansion. So for the first few years of Hotspur Leaf being law enforcement and armed forces, we basically only really supplied SF units and government agencies that you can't put on Facebook, you can't put a LinkedIn post up when you drop it off with your thumbs up. We couldn't do any of that. But they're amazing customers. Like a lot of my customers are like family. I work with some truly great people day to day. And but it's a bit frustrating that we couldn't do that. But as our bottles got given away as prizes or favors or thank yous, etc., word spread. So we now, as you've seen, we've got the SLR, we've got the S80, the Kukri, which is helping us to expand it into the wider armed forces within the UK. That has also led to us cropping up on other people's radars as well. So within the last sort of 6 months, we're starting to gear the business now ready for international growth. So and I'll come back to that in a second if I can. So we've started doing flasks that look like grenades and stuff as well. Yep. So one of my customers turned around to me about 18 months ago and said, right, we'd like you to do us a shot glass. I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, and it's got to sell for £5 with our regimental insignia on it. I was like, well, to be honest with you guys, I'm going to have to go to IKEA and buy them. And I don't really like IKEA. And the glasses are going to be crap. And I'm not really going to engrave your insignia on it for it to then go through the dishwasher, shatter, and you get loads of complaints. And then people come back to me. And they were like, yeah, fair one. Totally get that. What would you suggest? Because we want some shot glasses. And I was like, what the guys used to do, clearly, I won't go into too much detail, but 40mm shot cups or 40mm cases have been used as shot cups, potentially by soldiers occasionally. So I can't get enough 40mm shot cases due to the declarations and stuff, getting them off ranges. And it's cheaper for me to have them CNC'd out of aluminium and then have them anodized than it is to rectify a real one. Yeah. And get it up to the standard where I can sell it as a drinks item. So we came up with, and this is a stainless one, but you can't see it because of the thing. So there's a 40mm shot cup, okay, and that is made out of stainless steel, but we offer them in aluminium in black and green as well. And that's where my fetish for grenades started. So so we launched these. And anyone who's ever fired a 40mm will know that it's a pretty satisfying thing, and they do what they're meant to do, and it's a pretty cool weapon in the right hands. Yeah. So there's a big following for that sort of stuff. And the 40mm shot cups are a nice little thing with your regimental insignia on the front of them and a little message. We sell thousands of these. So off the back of that, then my mind's quite creative. So going along thinking, right, you know what? We should do a flask. We should do a 40 ml grenade flask, which I mentioned to the customer, and they're like, you need to get out more, Andy. You know, like they'll never sell. I was like, well, if I do some, would you try them? And they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll try them. So this is the stainless steel version. So I did a 40 ml grenade hip flask. And what's cool about this is you unscrew the base. That gives you your cup. And then you unscrew the top of that. And that then gives you the pouring spout. Yeah. So you've got your little flask. And again, like we sell a lot of these. They're very, very popular. We also offer them in anodized aluminium. So off the back of that, I got approached by an American unit who use a lot of CS gas grenades for room clearances. So, and the other great thing about CS gas 40 ml is it lends itself. So you've got two cups. So you've got the cup on the base, and then you've got the cup on the top as well. So that one actually has two cups on it. And I'm moving around, sorry, to try and keep it so you can see it with the background blocking out. So the base unscrews on that as well. I don't know if I can get it in my hand. Yeah, there you go. So you've got two cups and a flask, and we sell a lot of those again. Yeah. So those are pretty cool. That then spawned another entertaining conversation where we now do salt and pepper shakers.
Can you see my grin? I tell you what, this is like a boy's own instruction on how to drink and eat by using military equipment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. So it's quite entertaining. So there's the 40 ml grenades, and those come in aluminium and stainless. So we have a range of stainless steel 40 ml products, and we have a range of aluminium products as well. And we've got some quite serious inquiries about exporting these and also selling them to other brands. There's a company that approached us about 4 weeks ago that have got 140 shops in America and a massive online presence, and they want to purchase from us. We've got a lot of interesting things afoot in America, is what I would say. So that's one part of it. So then I was like, okay, so 40 mils is pretty cool. What about a pin grenade? Yeah. What about a realistic pin grenade? So I spoke to my CAD designer, who now entertains my crazy ideas, and said, right, I want to do a pin grenade hip flask that's an exact copy of a grenade. Yeah. And he's like, right, okay, how can we do that? So we started talking, and then we came up with this. What I'm about to show you is a 3D printed prototype. We are taking pre-orders for them at the moment. The first stock comes in about 3 weeks, like 3 to 4 weeks. So this will be made out of stainless steel, not plastic. Okay. So there's a fragmentation grenade. What I might do is see if I can turn off the background for this.
I can always take, if you've got it on your website, I can always put it up on as an image.
Okay. Yeah. Like there's some images there, or I can email them to you
yes,
if you want them. So this would be made out of stainless steel, and essentially it is quite simple. You pull that. Spring loaded. Sorry, like I'm trying to do it carefully. Like,
is it spring loaded?
Yeah. So when you pull the handle, I'm going to stop it just in case the plastic shatters. But basically, it opens up.
How very cool.
But off the back of that, it's like, well, there's 3 different types of grenades in use by the British Armed Forces and by the police. So you've got a fragmentation grenade.
Yeah.
You then have like the coolest one, stun grenade.
Yeah.
Or the distraction device. So mainly used by CTS, FOs, and SF for room clearances. Yeah. So that again, pull the pin, fly off lever flies up, and that is spring loaded, by the way. Yeah. So then you pour your drink out, and then we have a smoke grenade as well, which I'll show you in a second. Grab that. So there's the proof of the smoke grenade, and that's an exact copy, a dimensionally perfect copy of a smoke grenade. So you pull the pin.
Spring loaded, comes up, pour it.
Pretty much. And those will all be CNC machined out of stainless steel. And those can be personalized with regimental insignia, leaving gift messages, etc. And this has led us into the world of corporate gifting. So we've got 2 large arms manufacturers that want to buy these off us as corporate gifts, because sadly the arms industry is quite buoyant at the moment, with what's going on in the world. So we've got people who want to buy these off us in reasonable volume, which is quite nice. But they always raise a smile. I mean, I put a post up on LinkedIn, and if anybody is interested in having a chat with me, you can contact me via LinkedIn at any time. I'm quite active on there, and I put a post up of these, and people, you always get the comments about, like, I wouldn't take that to an airport; it'll fail airport security. It's like, well, you know what? You've got to be a special kind of stupid to take stainless steel grenade to an airport.
Yeah, with a liquid in it.
It's like, why even bother? Because you're just making yourself out to be an arse. They are designed for people who have served or people who have an interest to keep in their golf bag or keep at home as a bit of fun for their friends. They're not designed for airports. There you go.
It's the health
warning. I've said my piece, and I will get off my soapbox. So
no, you're absolutely right, and you're right about the golf thing. I mean, what's your minimum quantities and your maximum quantities?
What's that in terms of ordering?
Of ordering.
So if people want to go onto our website, we have a retail pricing, where they can just order one of anything, and they can. So we have a few different shops that we host for people. So one of the things that we do is, if you've got a charity or an association, and we do a lot for the military, we'll host a shop for you, where we can put our products in there, brand them as yours. People can log in and buy them, personalize them, because on the blades, I'll just grab the SLR wherever I put it down. We can actually engrave the blade. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Can you?
Yeah, so we can actually engrave the blades before they go into the bottles. I'm sorry, the thing keeps.
It's fine.
But we can engrave the blades. So what you get is a really nice dimensional effect, 3D effect. So what people will do is put, thank you, George, for your service. And then they'll put their army number or their service number down one side, and then dates of service down the back. Every process adds a little bit of cost.
Yeah.
But what we create is, basically truly unique, in terms of what you get. The other way that we do it then is we get lots of people come to us with artwork that we don't have. So we have a website called leafdirect.store. And on that, you can upload your own artwork and design your own bottles. So in there, the guys are feverishly, because I put a post up about the pin grenades on LinkedIn, and that's gone crazy. People want to buy them. So the guys are feverishly working away in the background to get that up and running. But you can log on to that, and you can have stuff wrapped around them. You can have your cat badge put on them, like whatever you want, really. I mean, we're not the cheapest people on the planet. Anything that we do is premium quality. So these are CNC aluminium. Just to give an idea of price point, the CS flask is £69, but that's CNC aluminium, and that includes an engrave to the front, so you can personalize it. These stainless shot cups are £24. The aluminium versions are £16. The HE stainless is £89, and the HE aluminium is £39. So you've got the aluminium one, and then you've got the stainless one. But the difference in weight within the stainless one. So these are what we tend to sell as leaving gifts for people, whereas the aluminium ones are what the blokes will buy to give as training gifts, or like the collectors will buy, because they're anodized to be like the exact colors. But that's all getting us ready for our international expansion. And the biggest project that we've got on at the moment is the operator. And we're very fortunate that Jason Fox has agreed to step up, or step in, I should say. And be, absolutely lovely guy. Really, really an absolute pleasure to work with. And Jason is basically going to be the face, if you'd like, of a new brand called Operator. So I had an idea. I've quite a few ideas, most of which should be controlled. But I had an idea about how cool it would be to have an operator setup. So an operator, for those who are unaware, who are watching this, so an operator is a military nickname for somebody within the special forces. They're an operator, and an operator helmet would look slightly different. Like a few years back, not so much now, but certainly a few years ago, the kit that the special forces soldier would use would be markedly different to the stuff that the white forces would use. So I had this vision of having an operator helmet as a lid for a bottle, because we did a project for a very, very cool company called Odin Tactical, run by a guy called Andy Lynch, who are a very forward-thinking, very cool tactical brand. So we did this bottle for Andy, which has the Odin helmet as a lid, and then has all the letters for Odin in stainless steel on the front. which is a really beautiful thing. But the cool thing about it is, I mean, Andy said, I want to produce something very special. So this lid weighs 470 grams. It's cast out of stainless steel. And then you've got a stainless steel pouring spout on there as well. So that pushed what we've done already, the boundaries, in terms of what we've done, which is something that I like doing. So at the time I was thinking, you know what, have something that looked like an operator lid with the NVGs and everything, would be really cool.
Yeah.
So then after a bottle of whiskey, I sat chatting with a mate of mine. He was like, yeah, it'd be really cool if the NVGs lit up. I was like, yeah, it'd be even better if the IR strobe worked. And he's like, yeah. Like, you couldn't do that. I was all right. Challenge accepted. So went away and worked with a very, very, very up and coming, very dynamic CAD team who helped us to produce the operator. And there he is. So that's the top of the bottle. So what you have here is a bottle top. I'll just come back a little bit. So this is like a pre-production prototype of it. And I'm going to have to source out how to change the background on this because it's not great.
If you can send me a picture, then I can put it on there. So that's fine.
That's cool. So what you have in the front, and I'll just come up there. So what you have there is a motion sensor. Okay. So when you walk past this, the NVGs come on. Because I'm moving around it. If I was to sit perfectly still for 20 seconds, it would go out. So it's on a relay. Sorry, it's on a timer of 20 seconds. So when you walk past it, like the NVGs come on. They don't actually come on. There's a light guide underneath the helmet. So all of the electricity and stuff is actually inside the helmet, the battery and everything. So when you walk past it, the NVGs come on. And on our website, there's actually a page with a video that talks through. So on hotsbelief.com, there's a page with a video that talks through like the pre-production prototype. So you've got NVGs on the front, you've got your IR light and all the rest of it. So there's two other things. The first one is at the back here, which is the battery or the counterbalance. There's a USB-C charging port, so you can charge the bottle, and it'll stay on standby indefinitely. The helmet itself, or the motion sensor, doesn't actually draw any power, so it'll stay on standby for an infinite amount of time, and the lights will stay on for 4 weeks. So you shouldn't have to touch it. If it's in your man cave and you walk past occasionally, you shouldn't have to touch it for a year or so. So it's quite a high quality bit of kit in that sense. But then for those that know, on the back of the helmet there, you've got so this would be an IR strobe, yeah. And just to give a quick explanation, so an IR strobe is a light source that you can only see through the NVGs. So when you're in a battle or a firefight, you can see your friends through, or your friendly forces, because the beacon on the top will be flashing, and you can see them through your NVGs to help reduce the likelihood of like friendly fire. Most of the enemy soldiers historically haven't had access to this sort of equipment, so it was a good way to identify people if you see the flashing strobe. So those that know, when the NVGs come on, and I don't know if you can see it in the darkened room here, the IR strobe actually flashes in the top of it as well.
Wow.
So when you're sat in your house with your NVGs on and your underpants at night with the lights out, you can actually see the IR strobe flashing. But in daylight you can't see it, or at night you can't see it. It also works in the dark as well. So this will work, and the range of this is about 5 meters of the sensor. So when you walk past, it goes off. So we're doing two versions of it. We're doing a civilian one, which Jason Fox is launching for us, and the brand will be ongoing. So we're going to do different whiskies and gins periodically when the time is right for that, and grow a brand called Operator. So we've registered the trademark Operator, and as I say, like Jason will be the front arm for that, and it'll have paper labels, and it comes presented. So the packaging, and I bought one down just for anyone on your show who might not have seen one. So the packaging for them is going to be a 40mm ammo tin.
Wow.
So that is a proper ex-military surplus ammo tin that we've acquired. And again, sorry, it's cutting out, but that tin weighs about 6 kilos. So there's going to be laser cut foam inside that, and anybody who purchases an operator bottle, they'll come in one of those ammo tins. So the civilian version has paper labels, but then we're offering it up to the military guys and the police, CTSFOs, etc. And if they want, they can have their insignia or their unit logo or whatever engraved on the front of the bottle with a scene on the back of it. So there's two different types of bottles. And we're running a deal at the moment as a pre-launch, because I put something out on LinkedIn and people just keep emailing me every day asking if they can buy the operator. So we set up a proper process now. So you can purchase one of the operator bottles like on a pre-order. So they'll be available early July. But if you want to pre-order, you'd get a free 40ml flask, not the stainless one, like one of the aluminium ones, which is branded operator, but there's an aperture cut inside the foam, inside the tin. So there'll be like a HE grenade. So it forms a really nice gift set. And there'll be a booklet in there about Jason, how we work with him, like the other products that we do. And we've got a very, very cool photo shoot in 2 weeks' time. So after we finish that, we've got a lot of toys that are being lent to us by some very cool people. So it'll be very entertaining. And once we launch that, that'll be the 3rd week of May. But if anybody wants to get pre-orders, I'll send you a link where they can log on and see what's there. It'd be fantastic. Yeah. So we're taking pre-orders for both civvy and also military elements of that. And the operator brand in time will do quads, with a white thing underneath it. And there's all other sorts of things that we can do. We've got some other pretty cool stuff being lined up for the operator series.
So how did you meet Jason Fox then?
So Jason is a friend of a friend. So a very good friend of mine in the Marines. I told him about this and I showed him some of the sketches, and he was like, "You're going to need some help to get that out there." Because one of the problems that we had at the time is, basically, as I alluded earlier, most of our customers don't exist. And they don't like social media, and we didn't really do anything, And I was like, yeah, we will do. What would you suggest? He's like, oh, well, I did like my commander training with Jason Fox. Would you like me to introduce him? So I was like, well, yeah, of course I would, So he introduced me to him on WhatsApp. And at the time, Jason was doing a tour of the UK. Yeah. And, I thought that I work long, hard hours. I have to take my hat off to that guy. He works incredibly hard at what he does. And basically, he's just flat out. The guy is just constantly working. So we stayed in touch. So first of all, we had a quick video call, and I showed him some of our products. And he was like, I love it. I'm in. Brilliant. So then we sent down a bottle to have a look at, and a grenade with his name on it, which he quite liked. So then we just stayed in touch via WhatsApp. And then he sent me a message about 8 weeks ago saying, right, the timing's right, let's meet. So we met up in London for lunch, and I showed him all of our products and stuff, and we agreed a deal. And I'm really, really chuffed, proud, excited, to say that he's come on board as a brand ambassador for us. And what a genuinely top bloke he is. Not only do I admire him for what he's achieved in his life, but I also admire very much so what he's done for, the unseen elements of warfare, the things that come back that people don't see. And a huge admiration for the guy, in terms of making it all right to not be all right, and also to seek help for that, and that's a very important part of, military culture that I think we need to work on as a nation. And we support 3 charities, all of which are focused on supporting that.
That's fantastic. He's a friend of a very dear friend of mine called Andy Merry. Andy's
I know.
Yeah, at the Tower in London.
Yeah. Well, there is a picture on our website of Andy. So one of the bottles that we did was a Coronation bottle.
Oh.
There you go. And the beaters got behind it and ordered some. And Andy very kindly did modelled a bottle for me at the Tower, which was very kind of him. Yeah, absolutely top guy, Andy. Yeah.
And I've done a podcast with him, and he's lovely. He's got multiple sclerosis, and his podcast is outstanding, like this one is. But yeah, he's a good guy, and he's a friend of Fox's as well. So if Mr. Fox, if you listen to this and you want to come and do a podcast with me, please get on board, because I don't want to talk about the gory stuff. I just want to talk about you and all the things that you've done. But yeah, mate, I've really enjoyed today, and I will put all your links. And if you can let me have all your social media links, send them over to me. Everything that you want me to publish, I will put it in the notes, okay, so that people can click on the links. It's interactive and people can go to it. The other thing I would say to you is that I run a services site called Job Services, okay. Mm-hmm. It's a platform for people like you who've got a police or military background, and there is a free of entry point on there, and you can advertise your brand, and it just goes out to the masses. And I'm prolific with what we do. So if you want to put it on there, I'll send you the links, and you can put it on there. The other thing I will say is, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to buy your friends and colleagues a personalised gift, have a look at this man's website. It is absolutely outstanding, the workmanship that's taken place. These are gifts that people will keep forever and be passed on to their nearest and dearest when they're no longer here. I absolutely love them.
Thank you very much.
Before we conclude this interview, is there anything you'd like to add, alter, or correct in relation to the statement that you've made today?
No, it's been a really nice chat, to be honest with you. I just appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for investing the time into me in the business, and helping to get the word out there. Our social media accounts at the moment are very junior. So any help in terms of, people liking whatever would be much appreciated. And if anybody wants to get in touch, or has got any ideas, our company strap is, there's a very famous ex-member of the SAS called Paddy Mayne, who's quite an iconic figure. And he attended a meeting with the general, who basically, and he was going to parachute in and do this and walk 30 miles across the desert, and way before any of that was even remotely normal. Not that it's normal now, but these are the times when they didn't issue parachutes, and so Paddy told him his plan, and this general turned around and goes, "That's just crazy." So Paddy, this is in regimental history, just turned around to him, looked him square in the eye, and said, "Yeah, crazy is our business." And if anybody's got any idea, no matter how crazy it is, I'm always interested in listening, because just because nobody's done it before, doesn't mean it's not a good idea.
No, I absolutely agree. And I'm going to be in touch with you for some golf prizes, because I think that your products translate so well into keepsakes, because you walk away with a sleeve of golf balls and people think, oh, what was that all about? They've already got golf balls. But to get one of your cups or to get a bottle or something like that, I'm doing a golf day for the retired police dogs, the Essex retired police dogs, and I'll be knocking on your door and
absolutely. Please do. We do actually, on the civilian side of the business, we do actually work with England Golf. So I'll pick up on that with you, outside of the podcast. Yeah.
Perfect, mate. Thank you so much for your time today. You've got my number. When you are down this neck of the woods, please give me a shout. I'll come into London and we'll go and have a beer somewhere.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you everybody for listening.
My pleasure. It's been great speaking to you, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Cheers, mate.
Thanks ever so much for listening to this episode of Paul Maleary's Job Downloaded. Please like, follow and share with all your friends. Your support is absolutely invaluable and makes a real difference to me as a podcaster. Thank you.